Right, hello again, Yunnan Cultural. So just another quick video to run us through another area of the research task that we're going to be working on for today's lesson. So today's lesson, we're going to be looking particularly at data, how we are collecting data and how we are representing data and using that for our assessment task because it is an important part of the task. So in our step-by-step how to proceed on the research task instructions, you can see that number 4 is collect data to answer your questions, e.g. statistics, surveys, interviews, or observations. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8 all involve the use of data. So this is an important thing that we need to attain in order to have success in this task. So let's just quickly scroll up and have a look at the rubric as well. So you can see that down the bottom, we've got the different things we're assessing you on: research skills, explanation of research, and lastly, data collection. So it's those two columns that we're going to be looking at today and you're going to be working on for today's lesson. The first one is users data. Now, I will say first and foremost up front that when we had devised this task, we had not foreseen the global pandemic that was coronavirus. So there is a step in this column where you are being asked to collect your own data. I'm going to go through what that might mean, but just know ahead of time that if we're having difficulties with this, we can work our way through that, or we can send an email to each other and I can have a conversation with you about whether or not that will be applicable for your task. So the first step of this rubric is 3.1.1, finds data. So can you find data on the internet or in other sources? Finds relevant data. Does the data you're collecting adequately help to answer your research questions? Collects data, 3.1.3, collects data. So that would be where you yourself have gone away and you've conducted a survey or an online survey, or you've asked one person on their opinion on something they could contribute to your assignment. Again, like I said, we can have a conversation if that's going to be applicable for your work. And then 3.1.4 is combines data types to produce conclusions. So both the data you've found yourself and the data you've collected to produce conclusions. So just like she did last time, Ms Lytas has come up with some example answers that we can use and it will really help us make our way through the rubric. So 3.1.1 finds data. At the foundational level, you are identifying one piece of data. So her question here was, why is Greek Easter important for Greek Australians? And then the data she found is that 90.4% of Greek Australians identify as being religious. So it's one piece of data included in a research answer. Important to note here as well is Ms Lytas has listed possible data sources you could use. So statistics, surveys, interviews with a single person from that cultural group, which can be done online, or observations in real life or from videos online. The next step, 3.1.2, is finds relevant data. The answer makes the data relevant by stating the source, year, and explaining that relevance. So in her answer on Greek Easter, the significance of Greek Easter for Greek Australians, Ms Lytas is clearly using the data here in a relevant manner. So she says, it is important because it is a religious celebration. Religion plays a key part in Greek Australian culture. In the 2016 Australian census, 90.4% of Greek Australians identified as being religious. This information shows that the Greek Australian cultural group values celebrations, time together as a family, and celebrating religion. So she's identified the source of the data, the Australian census, the year it was released, 2016, and she explains the relevance. Greek Easter is important to Greek Australians because it is a religious celebration, and 90.4% of Greek Australians identified as being religious. So you can clearly see a link there between the data and its relevance to your research answer. The next step, at the proficient level, 3.1.3, you are collecting data. So the answer includes data that you yourself have collected. So in this example here, Ms Lytas says, in the survey that I conducted, 80% of Greek Australian participants said they participated in a religious activity once a month. So that's a hypothetical collection of data there that Ms Lytas has done. So again, I said earlier in the video, but I'll say it again. You are able to do an online survey with one person, maybe from your cultural group or subculture. You can chat to me online about someone you could interview or survey. If we can't find someone that you can get data off, we can have a conversation as whether or not you will be assessed on that part of the rubric. Because like I said, we didn't didn't think that coronavirus is going to be a thing when we made this assessment task, so we're willing to make some accommodations here. So 3.1.4, assuming that you have been able to collect your own data, is combines data types to produce conclusions. So the answer uses two types of data to reach a conclusion. So both the data that you've collected yourself and the data you found online or statistics such as the Australian census. So the combination of this data, this is what Ms Lytas says, reflects the significance that religion has in Greek Australian culture. So you can clearly see how she's linking the two data sets to reach a conclusion. So that's 3.1, which is data collection, okay? Now we'll look at 3.2, which is represents data. So 3.2.1 represents data at the foundational level. Data is shown in a table. So you've got here the religion of Greek Australians as listed in the 2016 Australian census. So you've got the number of Greek Australians that follow each given religion. So you've shown it in a table. So simple steps there. You've got the data represented. At 3.2.2 represents data using accurate graphs. This is at the developing level. So you put the answer, say, into a pie graph is one of the graphs you could use. So you've got here what religion do Greek Australians follow, and you're accurately representing that in the pie graph. At 3.2.3, at the proficient level for collects data, you are showing the data, you're representing the data in multiple ways. So you've got it in a pie graph, say, and then maybe you've also got it in a bar chart. Now you don't have to feel like you're stuck to pie graphs or bar charts. There are different ways to represent data. These are some of the more applicable ways and more accessible ways. Now I will say, not every single one of your research questions will have data in the answer. What I would look for is to be able to have a graph or a representation of data for one, if not two, of your research answers, and that should be fine.